Welcome to another episode of my Motortown playthrough. Today we are back at the Gengyang dealership, and this is to give you guys a little bit of an update on my whole event planning scheme. So I want to show you guys the car roster that I decided on for this event. And yeah, it's gonna be a rallycross event, so I expect heavy upgrades for a lot of the different vehicles, at least the ones that have the option to. And I didn't come up with this list on my own. Basically, the TWL server already did a lot of vehicle testing to make sure that for different events the vehicles are on pace with each other. So I just chose a bracket that I found sounded fun, and I even excluded one single vehicle, but I didn't do any pace testing myself. I'm not that consistent with lap times here, as it may be obvious to people who watch the past few episodes and my driving style. Anyways, the first vehicle here is the Tuscan. So this is an old muscle car based on the Chevy Nova. Second one, the Duke, based on a Buick Regal. I parked my own one here since it's not available at this dealership. Next one is an old BMW lookalike, the Xino. And of course the Vista, which I've been upgrading for the past few episodes, based on a mix between Nissan Silvia and R32 Skyline. And also the 240Z lookalike, the SM. I hope it's the 240Z, I don't exactly know. I know a bit about cars, but I also forgotten a lot in recent past because I've not really been keeping up with things. And even stuff like these old beauties, I sometimes just tend to draw a blank, it seems. But yeah, this one would be another option. Another vehicle that is not available right here, and therefore I cannot show you guys, is the Toyota Supra lookalike, which is called the Mages in-game, and that will be the last option to choose from. The one that I decided to not include in the event, even though it would be on pace, is the Stinger. So that's the Camaro, the vehicle that everybody starts with, and while that would be a cheap and easy option for a lot of people, I mean, at least this one is only 10k as well, so there are cheap ways to get into the event. The thing about the Stinger is that it's pretty much similarly sized to this station wagon right here, and if you look at it compared to everything else around it, it's just comically large. And the same is true for the Stinger, and I felt like it would just look way out of place. Putting any of my vehicles next to it just makes it look like an inflatable, so I thought that would not be a good look for the event, and therefore it's out for this one. But yeah, that's the cars available. I'm considering to maybe even check out the SM, just buy it for myself and see what I can do in terms of upgrades. I was also considering doing the same for the Mages, but last time I checked, the only option for body kit upgrades was the removal of the rear spoiler, and I would like a little bit more for that. I mean, the stuff that I did to my Vista is, I mean, it's quite cool. What else can I say here? And yeah, I also gave it a bit of an overhaul between episodes. So first up, it has a different setup for the front lights now. More like the rally light thing going on here. And I even included one of the short light bars as just a bit of a fixture thing. Otherwise the front lights would all be floating, and while I won't be turning on the light bar, at least it now looks like everything is properly affixed to the car. I had to turn this upside down, that usually helps putting it a bit closer to the vehicle's body. Otherwise a lot of these lamps sadly have the tendency to float around. Not amazing. And yeah, I also finally came up with an idea for a paint shop. I would have liked to show this off just creating this whole thing, but it would have taken way too long, and these ideas, they just came in over the course of multiple days. So that wouldn't have worked out anyways. I started out with just the idea for the black front and the zigzaggy pattern going over into the dark red on the back. And initially the entire back was dark red, and while that looked alright for starters, I thought the car needed a few more things, so I put this grey stripe on the over the top of the entire car and onto the back, and then just decided to put on some decals here. So that's how we got all of this going, and in the end I thought that maybe it would be cool just having the back split up for the colors, so having the red on top and the dark gray at the bottom. Initially it was all one color, maybe one of the darkest shades here was pretty much what that entire area looked like. But eventually I decided to just switch it out for something that was from the regular car liveries. And the military pattern, the camo, kinda stuck out to me. So that's what I went with, and that's how this entire thing came together. But again, there were a few ideas that only came in later. I didn't record for a few days, and yeah, over the course of that time, this entire thing grew. And I think it's coming together quite nicely in the end. But yeah, let's drive over to a dealership for the heavy duty stuff, because there's another topic that I would like to talk about today. In a few episodes ago, I did a little testing with the CUDA, doing military crates and all of that. And while initially I thought the CUDA wasn't really behaving well, and it did jackknife quite a lot, so just turn the front around and ram the cabin into the side of the trailer. It just was partially down to me having problems with my vehicle setup. So I did another test. I also put the SRT through the same test, just going around with a fully loaded 40-ton fuel tanker, and it worked a lot better. So I think today is finally time to talk a bit about semi-trucks and which ones I find most recommendable, now that I did some decently extensive testing on all of them in fully upgraded form. And for that I would like them all to be together, so we are now going over there. But also just enjoying the pleasure that is driving this car over here. I really love this one. It turned out so great, its handling amazing. I could maybe make the front axle a bit stiffer, just adding stiffer springs, and I think that might make it a bit more responsive. But it could also just ruin its ability to go over difficult terrain and such. Speaking of which, when it comes to the rally stage, I think I'm gonna throw it out. It's either gonna be 2 rally course tracks or maybe even 3, but that's not entirely sure yet. But the rally is just way too rough for these vehicles. I've been advised that maybe I could go with well, something a bit more off-road ready, like some of the really heavy duty off-road pickup trucks and that kind of thing, the Mammoth, and what was the other one? I don't know even right now. Anyways, none of those vehicles are in my possession right now, so I cannot even test it if I want to. But yeah, let's talk about the semi-trucks a bit, and I'm sorry, but this will not be straightforward, because a lot of these have different advantages and disadvantages. And overall, after my testing, I can say that if you get a good suspension setup for the 2 axle trucks, meaning the CUDA and the SRT, that would mean having both of axles at 500% spring rate, just to make sure that they don't just go onto their knees and just struggle if you have to deal with a heavy load here. And increasing the stiffness of the front springs also makes sure that at least they handle decently. Still, there are nicer setups for these vehicles if you want to do racing with them, but overall I think 500% springs are required for heavy-duty semi-trucking here. And yes, that allows them to do the heavy-duty stuff. Again, I used the loaded 40-ton tanker, and both of them have handled that thing decently well. And since every single one of those trucks here can have the same engine in them, I think the maximum is 540 horsepower plus turbocharger, so that will be likely around 600 horsepower. That's alright. I still wish there was a better one available, maybe around 700 or something, but as it is right now, at least these are all performing decently well in terms of power. So if you upgrade them, there is none that will just die on you. But yeah, that's the one aspect. There are a few others. The easiest one to pick out is that some of these cabins have a sleeper area, meaning that they actually have a bed and allow you to skip the time while you are in them. And that's true for the Cuda, for the Golema, and for the FL1. Another important thing is range and additional upgrades. So there is the option on some of these to add additional fuel tanks, and they give you another 100 liters of fuel storage. You could also, since there are two options for those, you can, there are two spaces for those, so you can have 2 additional fuel tanks, but you can also have something else in that space, and that would be an inventory box, giving you 5 additional spaces for whatever stuff you want to put in there out of your inventory. Maybe your flashlight, maybe some of the ferry cans, coolant boxes, whatever. Can be really useful, but the important thing overall is range. And yeah, overall that's also a bit of an issue with some of these trucks. Both the SRT and the Cuda, they have only 400 liter tanks by default. Again, the SRT can be upgraded to 600 liters or 500 if you want to also have one of those inventory boxes, but you can do nothing for the Cuda. So that one is stuck with 400 liters, and I think looking at the kind of space you have in the back here, I mean this tank and this one right here, maybe that should be a bit more. But 400 liters without the option of any upgrade. If you try to do the whole supply run to the refinery and then bring some fuel back, your last stop for fuel, unless you have a vehicle that can refuel you on the road, the last stop is gonna be the Joyle gas station. And going from there all the way down here, unloading the trailer, loading it back up at the collection point right here. I was a bit confused where it says delivery, but this is where you pick up new stuff. This is where you get your new deliveries from. And coming back here, at around this point, I ran into the low fuel warning with the Cuda, and I actually ended up letting it roll through here. It still had a sliver of fuel in the tank, so it might have made it, but I wanted to make sure, and it just didn't look too well. So yeah, this one is potentially a problem. And for the SRT, at least you can upgrade it to 600 liter, at which point you should be safe. The rest of the semis has at least 500 liter by default. So 500 for these two, 510 for this one, and I'm pretty sure that there is already a card on the Trello about increasing the fuel storage for this truck, either through additional fuel tanks at some point. I don't know where those would go, or just giving it more fuel space in these tanks by default, because after all, these are pretty massive. But yeah, Recruiter definitely being more critical in terms of its fuel storage. The Golema not quite as much, but this one can also not be upgraded. The other two trucks here can go up to 700 liter if you go for double additional fuel tank. So in terms of range, these ones reign supreme. The Golema has another little quirk to it, that it has some inventory boxes by default. So you have storage for 2 items on that side and another 2 on this one. So that's how that gives you a bit of an extra thing, but once again, even if you were only to equip one single fuel tank here, you could have 5 additional spaces. So I think overall, despite looking pretty good, being a nice vehicle to drive, Golema is kinda losing out over these two right now. And I think if I really had to boil it down, if there was only one semi-truck that I could use from this point on, I think it would have to be the FL1. A sleeping area in the cabin, additional fuel tanks, among the highest fuel capacities by default, triple axle, it has basically everything. A lot of others can make do without having some of the features, but this one just combines it all into a very nice package. The one thing the SRT has going for it over everything else, it has a very high top speed, especially if you don't have everything in tow. Like this one can make it to 180 kilometers, which is pretty nice. The others are usually a bit slower, but also not to be underestimated. But yeah, overall I would say if it's the first truck, it's a good idea to wait for one of these to become unlocked. And I think the FL1 would still be the first one of those, so still very much recommended. The CUDA is also viable, certainly felt a lot better to me than the SRT, but once again, just by the fact of it only having one rear axle, it's kinda still suffering a bit. So yeah, overall, I am glad that I bought it. I will use it occasionally. It's definitely nice to have another option. But in the end, if it's really getting tough, then I would go for any of these 3. And yeah, most likely, well, I have this one tuned for off-road, so that's not always an option. But yeah, the FL1, once again, just in terms of range, outclasses the Golema by quite a bit. Like 700 liter compared to 510. We're gonna have to see what that is gonna be like in the future, but yeah. As far as it is right now, buy the FL1, get the others after that, have a bit of fun with it, but yeah, just make sure you have a bit of spare money once you get them. Because having one of these is gonna be essential, and everything else is gonna be more like for additional options and that kind of thing. Enough about that. I hope I made myself clear here with what I think about the different trucks, and when it comes to the Jimusi that we've seen in past episodes, that's gonna be more for the heavy off-road stuff, and it's likely gonna come with its own set of trailers, so I don't expect it to be of the same category as these, if it even gets the heavy-duty engine to begin with. So that might just be its own thing, but I kinda hope that maybe the SRT also finds a home with some of those deliveries. I don't know, likely not the heavy off-roading stuff, but maybe some of the trailers can be used for something else as well. I think that will be a good point to come back to later down the line, but since since that will make the choice only more complicated, I think it was a good idea for me to just get my opinions on the current state of things out there, and then go from there the next time. So first up, let's repair the car here. Let's refresh the buses once again. And then let's see what we can do for the last few minutes here. You know what? Why don't we go back to the... I actually meant to hit the handbrake here. Why don't we go back to Gangyang and actually test out the SM? If I'm driving there. I did 10 meters on foot and then decided, no, I have cars, I should use them. Because this is, I think, one of those cars that I've never owned before in this game. Most others I've at least given a try, but this one flew under my radar. I know it's also available over here at the furniture factory, but it's just one of those things that I always thought were cool, but I never really had the incline to get it. So let's see, I hope it also has a few body kit things that you can do to it to just make it look a bit more like a race car, or maybe even stuff for off-roading as well. Can I say by default it's at least going pretty quick already. It has an i450 horsepower engine, so that's not even too much power. That was not the menu I want to get into. So let's check out aerodynamics, and yeah, it has a few options. That's nice. So we have a 30 kilogram bumper. We have a 33 kilogram racing kit with also a bit of wide body going on. And just a 40 kilogram front lip. I get what they are doing here, but I kinda wish it was more like the front lip on this spoiler, just a bit more coming in from lower and from the back, and not just covering over that much of the original front bumper, and has everything around here. So this one right now looks a bit awkward to me. I would rather have this one right here. Although really for the event we should likely stick with higher ground clearance and the stock front bumper, but we'll try this one. Fenders are available, and yeah, this is a full-on wide body kit. 20 kilograms, I think I'm gonna go without. Rear bumper, diffuse and everything. Sure, why not? The thing is, with everything being highlighted here, it always looks even more bulky than it is. So it's still quite bulky, but it fits in a bit better. I wish we had a side skirt for this one as well, so I could use this stuff without the whole fender. It's a bit too heavy. So yeah, maybe we go with stock here. I think that's a better option for this thing overall. Third one might be an idea, but who knows. Rear louvers or louvers, whatever. It's gonna look like something. We cannot just have it stock, so let's just go with this one here. Rear spoiler and rear wing. That's just classic. Yeah, I'm gonna invest the 10k. I hope we get aerodynamics sooner than later. They have been on the Trello for quite a while, and it would really be nice just being able to get something out of your actual aero equipment. apart from a vehicle being heavier. Nothing helpful here apart from taxi license, trailer hitch, we don't really need that. I'm curious if this thing can actually take all the power and use it. I'm just gonna buy a few of these. Because why not? We have another turbocharger, let's get that installed. Additional radiator. If this thing doesn't work for me, I don't know if I would necessarily sell it again, but that would be an option. Let's go for a long intake. I don't trust it with even more torque than it has already. Transmission, I think we want 6-speed sports here. I've done such a goof with final drive ratio recently. If it is too long, I need to go further down here and completely forgot that at one time. But we'll see about that. I don't care too much about base right now. Let's keep it as it is. I really want to see what this thing looks like once you increase the height. Oops. Let's buy 6, having a few left over for later. Would rather buy more than sell them. Okay, if we put this all the way out, it's looking kinda goofy. It would be helpful, but, well, I don't know about that. Maybe 70 is enough. Okay, let's get stiff dampers. And softer springs. And also anti-roll bars. I should make a suggestion about this, as putting the anti-roll bars together like the springs and dampers, so we don't have to go through another option for each individual axle here. It's kind of a bit overkill. Well, we should probably equip off-road tires. I think that might be a good idea for off-roading. And let's see, what wheels does it have? We could just quickly give it the Vista wheels, since they are just lying around here and they are definitely light enough. I really didn't want to make this entire episode about the event again, but I don't know. With all the stuff that I talked about so far today, I think just starting something completely different in the last 10 minutes would have been a bit weird as well. So we're just gonna go and take a look at the car here. And just take it for a spin. I mean, overall this doesn't feel bad. I kinda expected worse from it, since it should be a quite light vehicle. Then again, yeah, a lot of the stuff that the TWL server decides on when it comes to the vehicle classification has to do with its weight. So I don't think it's quite as light as some of these other vehicles like the Miata and stuff. But yeah, this one is actually going quite well. Obviously much more stock compared to the Vista. But it can apparently take the power. Final drive ratio might need some tuning. Might still be a bit long. I think the Vista gets up to 180 or something. And we are very far away from that, but I'm also just kinda losing control of it. So I think it might be a bit lighter than the Vista. I mean, logically it should be. But it's not like it's really struggling with the engine. And yeah, this is another track that I'm considering for the event. We're just gonna follow this road, then turn around to the left, go on the highway, and then straight back to the south end of Jeju. Didn't really plan on showcasing this track today, but well, kinda needed something for this car to be tested on. The other track that has a much higher chance of getting in there is a lap around Gappa, so we call it the Gappa Gallop. That's the one that I've been kind of failing pretty hard on in the small car rallycross event quite a while ago, where I got into the lead in the first few corners and then had some unlucky bouncing around, and that caused me to completely lose control, lose positions, and limp around with a damaged car. Is he just waiting for me? Yep, got the cops on me. Who would have thought? I mean, I think he wanted to turn in and I was in the way. But of course I'm now being chased again, as per usual. Or am I misremembering something? I think this one is in the event. I should have double checked. I'm a bit all over the place recently. I think it might also be in a class that's slightly lower than this and might therefore be a slightly lighter vehicle than most of the others. Oh, and I forgot, I also have the modern BMW in there. It's also allowed. I wasn't too sure about the modern cars at first because they look kinda too pristine for rallying, but I mean, you can make something mean with them. Okay, and this one wants to go faster. But yeah, when it comes to the tracks, the one that I showed you guys already, that's gonna be in the event definitely, and the second track will be the one around Gappa. And if we go for a third one, that's gonna be this one right here. But if any track is gonna be cut, it's gonna be, well, this one. But yeah, I'll have to double check and to not just leave you guys with incomplete information. Let's just do that right now. I'm just gonna look into Discord real quick, and when that's gonna be when I know what's going on here. Need to scroll a bit further up. Okay, yeah, it is in the event. Yep. Better to double check that. But yeah, it feels like it has a bit more going for it in terms of top speed than my other car. I might even go as far as maybe using this one in one of the races. So if we have this race here, and since it is gonna be very top speed focused, I might use this one over the Vista. It feels a bit more twitchy. I might also have to do something with the handling and all of that, but it's a good car. I like it. And I have to figure out a few more things about it. I also don't really like how much it's going down with the rear when I accelerate, but I guess that comes with the territory of soft springs and much power. But yeah, this one is a keeper. I don't exactly know right now for what, but there are definitely things that we can do with it. Also, as far as I'm aware, when it comes to the spoilers and everything, they are modeled after real-life versions. So this might be something that actually exists, and the thing that I'm thinking about is from Forza, where they basically just put the same spoiler lip and rear spoiler on every single car, so that's not that realistic. Anyways, my throat is telling me that I should be ending the episode right now, so thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed, see you guys next time, and till then, bye bye.